So where do developers, automators, and coders of all kind write their code? Well, they write it in a developer environment. So just like other professions, like for instance, writers are going to use something like Microsoft Word to write a paper because it checks formatting and word count and blah, blah, blah. There are also special environments where developers can write code. It's not so different from how a network engineer has their own tools that they're working in and day out, right? Maybe you're using PuTTY or Secure CRT. Maybe you're using SolarWinds. You're working in the CLIs of various products. And developers likewise have tools that they're working in and day out. And most of those tools are built into our developer environment. It's called an integrated developer environment, or an IDE. And again, that's just a large term for saying this is the place where we code and there's multiple tools built in. Just like with Microsoft Word, this tool is there to check your code formatting and that things are going to run without errors. Technically, you could write your code in like Notepad, right? Or you can write your code in the terminal. But there are various reasons why we're using a developer environment instead. Some of those reasons are going to become more obvious to you in later videos. Now, there are various developer environments or IDEs on the market, right? And there's various opinions on them. Some of that is subjective. The most important thing when choosing an IDE is that it's compatible with whatever language you plan on using. So in this course, we're teaching Python, and debatably, the most popular IDE used with Python at this point in time is VS Code. So for the remainder of this video, we are going to walk through how to download and install VS Code. We're also going to go ahead and get you set up with some additional things you're going to need. For instance, we're coding in Python in this course, and so we need to install Python. And there's a couple of other things that we're going to need to install just so that VS Code knows how to work with your Python code. This will not be everything you're going to need for your entire developer workflow, but we don't need to bite off more than we can chew starting out. So please, if you're not already, before you watch the rest of this video, hit pause, make sure that you're doing this on a laptop, and also make sure that your laptop meets the hardware requirements. VS Code claims to be a small download, less than 200 megabytes. You do need a 1.6 gigahertz or faster processor in order to run it, as well as a gig of RAM, and these are the operating systems that are supported. One final caveat I want to mention when we get started is that those of us who have trained as developers typically find that we run into a lot of frustrating problems just getting the developer environment set up, which can be very demoralizing, right? Because before you've even tried or attempted to write a line of code, you're running into all these errors and don't understand what you're doing. My hope is that this video streamlines that process for you, but if you do run into any issues, or if you just have questions about what you're doing, try not to be too hard on yourself. It's pretty normal for this stage of the game. All right, so pull out that laptop and let's get your environment set up. We're gonna start by Googling VS Code install, and we're going to download the VS Code install from the website. You can download based on your operating system. I'm going to go ahead and download the zip file so that I can use the installer with my Mac. I'm using the Apple Silicon chip, so I'm going to click that. Once you start downloading VS Code, it takes you to their documentation page, and you don't need to worry about this right now because I'm going to walk you through it, but just in case you want something to reference, you have additional questions or want to dive deeper, this is where you are going to look. All the steps that we're going to cover are going to be covered here as well. Okay, so let's check our downloads now, see if that finished. And it did, so we're going to go ahead and open that zip file and install. The first time you open it, it's going to say, hey, came from the internet. Do you want to open it? And we're going to say, yes, open. And here we are. Now we are looking at VS Code. Let's just go ahead and make it full screen. And this is the only time that VS Code is going to look like this. It's taking us through initial setup or configurations. And you can skip all of this if you want to. You can completely customize your developer environment. And because I'm walking you through this and giving you the quick and dirty version, we are going to skip most of it. So we're going to go ahead and hit the Browse Popular Extensions button, and I'll teach you how to find more extensions in the future. This is an integrated developer environment, meaning that the tools you need are usually all here in some form. We are actually going to install an extension, which is like a plugin or something, for working with Python code in VS Code. And we see the Python one is right here at the top, and we're just gonna go ahead and click install. It's really fast. All right, and we got it installed. And we're just gonna go ahead and mark done, skip the rest of the configuration. And the Explorer that I'm clicking open and close over and over again is where your project files will be displayed. We typically keep projects in folders on our computer, and this is where we would open those folders and see the file structure. But we're starting out easy peasy right now. So we're just gonna click new file, and we are going to want to start a Python file. If you had other languages here, you could choose that language's file. You could also just do a text file. And right here where we have open is where you write your code. It is the Microsoft Word or the terminal of your developer environment. Not to be confused with the terminal that's actually in the environment, which I'll show you in just a second. And you don't need to understand what I'm writing here. See how there's squiggly lines at first because VS Code doesn't recognize what the crap I'm writing right now. I'm writing a comment on the first line, which is a line of the code that your environment doesn't actually read. It's just there for you as the human. Then I'm going to write a print statement. This is something built into Python. You don't need to worry about it right now. All you need to know is that it allows me to output something to the terminal, which is something that you guys are more comfortable with. We're going to go ahead and save this. And now we want to open the terminal because there's a terminal built into VS Code, and that's where we can run commands and run our files. So on a Mac, we're going to do terminal up at the top of your screen and then new terminal. Now you can see here at the bottom of our developer environment that we have a terminal. And when you want to run a Python file, this is the command you write, Python3 and then the name of that file. We can see that before we auto-complete the command that this is the file structure of my operating system like you're already familiar with. And the only thing outside of it is that blah, blah, blah file I just created. And before we run the file, I just want to show you as well that you can also, you can split your terminal, you can kill it, you can open different types of terminals. But back to our operating system's terminal. I'm going to finish up that command for Python 3 with the name of the file. And you'll notice that we get a big long message that says no developer tools were found requesting install. And this is because we downloaded our developer environment, VS Code, and we also installed an extension that's going to make working with Python easier in VS Code, but we never installed Python, the language we're going to use. So let's go ahead and do that. If you're ever wondering, do I have Python installed or what version of Python do I have installed? This is the command you would run to find that, Python 3 space -- version. But right now, this is just confirmation of what we already know, which is that there is no Python installed. So same thing, we're going to Google how to install Python, and we're going to download it from python.org itself. And when we go in here, python.org already detects that I'm using a Mac, and so it gives me the option to download the latest version of Python for my operating system. There we can see it's finished in my downloads. I'm going to open it in my downloads. So until you're farther along on your journey, or maybe more doing complicated things, you really don't need to know what this says before you go ahead and continue the installation. But this is typically going to talk about the install. It's going to maybe talk about some new features of this particular version of Python. And we're going to agree to the software license. It's going to take up 182 megabytes of space on your computer, so make sure you've got that before you install. It might ask you for your password in order to do this, so type that in and then hit install software. And here we go, it's been installed. So now we can actually open it like we would open any other app on our computer. So I'm gonna go down to the bottom of the screen and hit the VS Code symbol. It kind of looks like the view from above, someone like trying to give you a hug or awkwardly hugging themselves. All right, so we're back in VS Code and now we wanna see if Python actually installed successfully. So we'll run that same Python 3 space -- version command. Woohoo, yes, we have the latest version of Python. We are running Python 3.13.3. There's not much else I want to overwhelm you with at this point using the IDE, but I just want you to know that we don't just have the terminal down here. We also have the option to forward a port. We can do something called the debug console, which is what we're going to open when we troubleshoot our code. There's a problems console that tells us when there were problems when we ran our code. But anywho, the final step here is that we need to select an interpreter down at the bottom right in yellow on your IDE screen. VS Code is compatible with Python and you've installed Python and you even have the extension to help you out with formatting and troubleshooting. Now we need to choose the Python interpreter so that VS Code knows how to interpret the code, right? Because VS Code could be interpreting many different languages for you. And so because you're about to code in Python, we're going to use the Python interpreter. It does not really matter if you understand the nuance behind it at this stage. That is most of what I want to show you right now. This is not in any way everything you need to know yet. Just a couple more things before we end this video. Know that VS Code has its own built-in commands that you can search for at the top. I don't use those often, but they are there. It's probably going to be more useful to just learn the shortcut keys or hotkeys on your computer for doing different things in VS Code, which they show you right next to the command. If you're ever coding and lose the view of your terminal, you can just bring that up again by going to View at the top and then clicking Terminal. You can also run code by having the file open and hitting the play button at the top right. You can see when we do that it says the file ran, just like we expect when we run that file. You have the option to change your view. So these icons at the top right of your screen that look like shaded in half boxes will allow you to close that left-hand explorer that you don't know much about yet. It'll allow you to close or open or view again that terminal at the bottom. And the right one can be toggled on and off for Copilot Chat, which is the AI coding assistant that we're using for this course. You can also have all of that unchecked so you can just see the file that you're coding with. Or you can split your VS Code screen so you can see two files side by side. When you do that, you have the option to close both of those separately. The very bottom of VS Code won't mean that much to you yet, but those bottom left symbols are what tell you if there are errors or warnings. You've got the magnifying glass if you want to zoom in on what you're seeing in VS Code. We have to use spaces a lot when we code, and so this is set up to do 4 spaces every time with the space bar. And we can also see that autocompletes are turned off. So that means your AI coding assistant is not going to complete the code for you. All right, so in this video, we did our initial developer setup by first, installing VS Code, our developer environment. Second, installing the Python extension for formatting and debugging your Python code easier. Third, installing the programming language Python on your computer. And finally, choosing a Python interpreter for your environment so that it knows how to interpret the code that you're going to write. So right now, this feels like you just moved into a new, unfamiliar apartment or house, but with time and practice, it is going to feel more like a home. Remember, at one point you weren't comfortable with the CLI, but look at you now. And if you had any issues with the setup during this process, that's very normal. It's something that developers who are even seasoned run into at times. So if you had any of those issues, let us know in the comments and we'll try to help you out. I'm gonna make sure to include any relevant links that we use today in the description, including the link to your practice exercises. They are short, so please do your practice exercises before moving on to the next video using variables. That's right, we are about to start coding. Take care.